You may have heard that Tommy Oliver is the greatest ranger ever, but whoever told you that is wrong, 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 wrong. Sure, he's the most well-known, but fame does not necessarily equate to greatness, and neither does ubiquity or charm. The true greatest ranger is the one who has always persevered, who faces mortal peril with the courage and strength that makes them truly worthy of being a Power Ranger, and is still a compassionate team member and leader. So then who is the greatest ranger? Who else has the ability, longevity, growth, leadership, and heroism to make them deserving of that title? Who else has stared evil in the eye and laughed in its face? Who else's name causes the forces of both good and evil to step back and take notice? Who else but Kimberly Ann Hart? Kimberly was one of the original 5 Mighty Morphin Power Rangers recruited by Zordon to oppose the evil space witch Rita Repulsa. Chosen for her grace and intelligence, Kimberly is given the pink pterodactyl power coin and the powers of the Pink Ranger. Initially, she and the other Rangers are unsure whether to take on this responsibility, but when they are attacked by Rita's putty patrollers, they use their newly given morphing powers to survive and win the day. Kimberly chooses to become a Power Ranger and dedicates herself to fighting evil and protecting her friends and loved ones. She is the most light-hearted of the Power Rangers, often making jokes or quips at Goldar and others of Rita's monsters. Her presence on the team raises everyone's spirits, and she encourages and inspires each of her friends to do their best with her supportive, free-spirited attitude. She fits the Valley Girl stock character type, fashionable and cool in that youthful 90s California way, like, totally. But she is also more than that. She's smart and determined, always giving everything that she has for the team. Kimberly is far more than she first appears to be, and she really does have the true heart of a hero. Anyway, as she performs her ranger duties, she often becomes involved in misadventures, whether as part of Rita's evil schemes, Billy's technological experimentation, or other random happenstance. In one instance, Rita attempts to destroy her by drugging the pilot of a plane that she was flying in, knocking him out and leaving Kimberly to have to land the plane by herself. Other times, Kimberly has been turned into a punk, had her body swapped with Billy's, and got to star in a popular nationwide Halloween-themed game show. The wildest things seem to happen to her, and through all of it, she remains poised and confident, overcoming any challenge put in front of her. When Tommy, the Green Ranger, arrives on the scene, he immediately attracts Kim's interest as the hot new kid, but their relationship gets off to a rocky start due to Tommy becoming brainwashed and evil for a while. Once that gets taken care of, though, it's full speed ahead on awkward teenage romance, and Kimberly and Tommy start to spend a lot of time together. In time, their feelings continue to grow, and they kiss when Tommy loses his powers the first time, and I told you last time that I'm not interested in covering this part in any kind of detail. Anyway, when Jason, Zach, and Trini leave the team to participate in the World Peace Conference, this leaves Kimberly and Billy as the most experienced Power Rangers. Tommy gets to be the leader due to his specialness, but Kimberly becomes the de facto second in command, and would take point whenever Tommy was too busy /late /forgetful /imperiled to participate in the Battle of the Week. Meanwhile, Billy's got his own stuff going on, and he doesn't need the validation or responsibility of leadership to be important. Anyway, when the big evil fleshy skeleton Lord Zed recognizes Kimberly's courage and tenacity, he decides to make her his evil queen, because if you can't beat them, brainwash them into joining you. He has Goldar kidnap her and cast a brainwashing spell to make her forget all about her do-gooder ways as a Power Ranger. The spell fails, however, unknown to Goldar, and Kimberly comes up with a brilliant plan on the spot, to pretend that the spell was actually successful and to act like Rita, doing an incredible impression, and using Rita's overwhelming presence and personality to keep Goldar, Squat, and Babu off guard until reinforcements arrive. And she pulls this off perfectly, effectively turning the tables on Goldar and making good her escape. More than any other Ranger, Kimberly seems to have the worst luck. One time she gets sucked into a completely random time hole, taking her back to the Angel Grove of the Old West. There she meets everyone's identical ancestors and is saved by Tommy's ancestor, the mysterious White Stranger. Before she has an opportunity to unpack all of that, Lord Zed moves to take advantage of her predicament. While she's stuck alone in the past, Lord Zed uses the time hole to send Goldar, some putties, and the Needle-Nosed Monster back in time after her. To fight Zed's goons in the past, Kimberly seeks out the Zordon of the past, who entrusts her with the power coin, which she uses to recruit everyone's ancestors to be the Wild West Rangers, cowboy style. They even get themed outfits, with cowboy fringe and bandanas and stuff. Tommy's ancestor doesn't get anything, but it's fine because he's super cool, except for the part where he takes a shot right to the heart, like a chump. With help from the Wild West Rangers, Kim is able to drive Goldar and Needlenose back into the time hole, protecting Angel Grove's history as we know it, and she returns to the present just as her identical ancestor rolls into town. It's probably best not to think about how that turns out, because if you start shipping Wild West Kim and Wild West Tommy, then you run into the problem where they both have identical descendants who are also into each other, and definitely not related, and twist all of that together with the question of whether the White Stranger Tommy is a descendant of the clone of Tommy that got left in Colonial Angel Grove. Honestly, Tommy, stop leaving weird doppelgangers all over the timeline. Anyway, Kimberly goes through the whole power coins get damaged/destroyed and they have to get new power coins from Ninja that are powered by the Ninjetti within their hearts thing with all the other Rangers, linking her powers to her innate life force. But it turns out this is a bad thing when her power coin is stolen by Kat, the new girl, who has eyes for Tommy and also is brainwashed and evil, working for Rita and Lord Zed. With her coin in the hands of evil, her power and her life force are drained, with the possibility of losing the Pink Ranger powers forever. Oh, also she would die. Meanwhile, she gets the opportunity to train with a famous gymnastics coach who could take her to the non-trademarked Pan-Global Games, but is unable to commit the time and responsibility that it would require while she is still a ranger. Ultimately, she chooses to uphold her responsibility as a Power Ranger and uses the last of her energy, sacrificing herself in an attempt to protect Catherine, despite her being evil, and she's captured and most of her energy is drained. Anyway, Alpha is able to remove the direct connection between Kimberly's power coin and her life force, but she has been left drained without her power coin, and must draw energy from the other Rangers' coins to continue fighting as the Pink Ranger. In her weakened state, she is injured during gymnastics practice and has to go to the hospital. Catherine, seeing how good Kimberly has been towards her despite her evil ways, has a change of heart and tries to save Kim, and her selfless act removes Rita's evil spell, freeing Kat, who recovers and returns Kimberly's power coin. Kimberly, seeing how strong Catherine had been in breaking free of Rita's control, decides that she will pursue her lifelong dream of competitive gymnastics, and she passes the pink power coin on to Catherine, who becomes the new Pink Ranger as Kimberly leaves to train in Florida. Meanwhile, in another dimension, I want to talk about the universe where Tommy Oliver chose to stay with Rita and became the evil Lord Draken. In this world, Kimberly becomes a freedom fighter in opposition to Draken, but when she goes to face Draken himself, he manages to brainwash her using the Bow of Darkness, a spell similar to the Sword of Darkness that Rita used to control Tommy. Now evil, she serves as Draken's enforcer, the Ranger Slayer, until she is accidentally thrown across time and dimensions to the Prime Universe, arriving shortly after the Rangers were chosen by Zordon. There, the Kimberly of that time manages to destroy the Bow of Darkness, freeing the alternate Ranger Slayer Kimberly. The Ranger Slayer, now freed, learns of Draken's plans to take over the multiverse and kill Tommy in the process. Determined to find a way to stop him, she seeks out the Tommy of the past and shoots him with a shard of the green Chaos Crystal that Draken will ultimately use to break open the multiverse. This shard is ultimately what allows Tommy Oliver to survive inside the crystal until the opportunity to re-emerge and stop Draken arises. During the actual multiversal war, Ranger Slayer Kimberly assists in a lunar prison break, escaping on the Promethea colony ship when Draken succeeds in remaking the universe in his image. When the dust settles, the Promethea is stranded in an alternate universe without access to the Morphin Grid, known as the Void. Kimberly is one of a handful of Rangers who still have the ability to morph, and she ends up in charge of the Promethea Rangers, a collection of Rangers from various teams across Ranger history. Under her charge, they meet and ally with Alarion, wielder of a strange morpher-like device, the Solarics. Pursued by the mysterious Praetor, Kimberly leads the Promethea Rangers across the universe to the origin point of the Solarics, the Splintered Star, a planet made entirely out of Zeocrystals. Ultimately, charged with the full power of the Solarics, Kimberly and the other Promethea Rangers are able to destroy the Praetor and reconnect the Morphin Grid to the Void universe, setting the stage for the rise of Alarion and the new Solar Rangers. But that's another story. Anyway, it's obvious that Kimberly Hart is the greatest Ranger ever, but what makes her so great? The answer comes in 5 parts. Number 1. Ability. Kimberly Hart was never a fighter. Her primary skill was in gymnastics. She is world-class, able to compete at the pan-global level, and as a Ranger she incorporates gymnastics into her fighting style like no other Ranger does. She is highly mobile, fluid, and graceful, with all the strength and stamina that being a Ranger grants her. She is constantly training. Gymnastics is a sport that demands perfection, down to the smallest detail, and she is often seen practicing in the juice bar at any hour of the day or night. But even beyond her physical prowess, her true skill lies in her keen precision. Kimberly's signature weapon is the power bow. Unlike the weapons used by other Rangers, her strength isn't what makes the power bow deadly. It's a weapon relying on precise aim and perfect timing. Time and again, Kimberly is the only one capable of defeating a monster thanks to her skill with the power bow. When there is a monster who can't be fought with strength alone, Kimberly is the one everyone looks to. When you need a Ranger to shoot the golden apple off of Snizzard's head, when you need to free the rest of the team from the Terror Toad with a direct hit to its neck, or when you need to strike the Spitflower's Mist Sack and take down a monster that even the Zords can't defeat, you call on Kimberly Hart and her power bow, and you get out of her way. Number 2. Longevity. Kimberly was a Power Ranger from the very start. She was chosen directly by Zordon, with no predecessor passing a torch. She earned and defined her position completely independently. She has fought over 100 monsters, and she beat them all. In her tenure as a Ranger, she has seen and done everything, from traveling through time to flying through space. She is the 3rd most long-running Power Ranger, with only Billy and Tommy surpassing her, and due to time stuff as Ranger Slayer, she has been through years more of freedom fighting, regular fighting, and traveling beyond the grid to do more freedom fighting. Number 3. Growth. At the start of the series, Kimberly doesn't seem all that special. She isn't a trained martial artist like Jason Zaccartrini. She doesn't have Billy's genius intellect. What she does have is fierceness, tenacity, and a passion for anything and everything that she puts her mind to, and she points all of that at training to be the best that she can be, as a Power Ranger and as an athlete. Her life is a balancing act between being a Power Ranger and being a champion gymnast, and unlike other Rangers, she eventually has to decisively choose between her 2 dreams. When she has the opportunity to train in Florida with Coach Schmidt, she tries to do everything, be a ranger and a gymnast all at once, even while her power and life force are under attack by the forces of evil. Pushed to that limit, she is injured and almost decides to quit, but Catherine shows her how instrumental Kimberly was in pulling her away from evil and from fear, proving the good that Kim has done as a ranger. Seeing the courage that she inspired in Catherine gives Kim the motivation to keep going and follow her dream of being a gymnast, while trusting Catherine to carry on her legacy as a Power Ranger. Number 4. Leadership. On the face of it, Tommy might be the leader of the Power Rangers, but Kimberly is the one who actually puts in the time and the work. She is reliable, always there for the team, always ready to step up and do what needs to be done. And she's smart, too. She has a keen tactical mind, but is also compassionate, and she keeps the safety of others in mind, making sure that any plan she enacts will also protect the people that she cares about. When Tommy isn't available, which, let's face it, is a lot, Kimberly is the one who takes the lead and gets it done. And when Kimberly is alone, stranded in the past, she makes her own team of Power Rangers, recruiting her friends' ancestors and inspiring greatness in them as she leads them to victory over Putties, a monster, and even Goldar. She understands the importance of both leadership and of the power that working as a team can bring. She doesn't rush in on her own. She doesn't get special armor or a special battle mode. She doesn't showboat or seek attention or recognition. She leads. Number 5. Heroism. More than anything else, Kimberly's strength is her unshakable determination. No matter what she is faced with, she continues fighting until the very end. When her powers are being drained and her life force was weakening, she still went out to save Catherine alone when no one else could. Despite the situation being a trap designed to capture her, Kimberly fought as hard as she could until her last breath, igniting a flame of goodness within Catherine's brainwashed mind. Kimberly doesn't give up. She only fights harder and harder. Even in the worst circumstances, like being under Draken's spell as the Ranger Slayer, she refuses to quit. When Draken's spell is broken and she has to deal with the trauma of all that she's done under Draken's command, she is determined to do whatever she can for the forces of good, ultimately saving Tommy's life and making victory against Draken possible. Kimberly is a hero unlike any other. She is always training, always striving to be better, eventually taking her to the world stage as a gymnast and to a place deserving of reverence among Rangers. She was a Ranger from the very beginning, and she served that position with the best of the best. Kimberly is kind and compassionate, but fierce and determined when necessary. She truly deserves to be recognized as the greatest Power Ranger of them all, a shining beacon of everything that a Ranger should be, strong, honest, intelligent, devoted, and always driven to protect those in need, through all the hardships that the forces of evil can devise. It is her legacy that Catherine and every other Pink Ranger after her has carried. The first, the best, the uniquely talented world-class gymnast, fighter, and Power Ranger, Kimberly Ann Hart.